Greetings and welcome to the Inner Den. It is the end of January. How did that happen? First of all.
Right?
And yeah, not only did it happen, there's some pretty wild and all of the adjectives, things happening on the planet right now. Um, and as we show up in community, as we show up for ourselves, as we show up for our families, I'm I'm just feeling this irresistible urge to talk about how do we get involved and how do we protect our nervous systems at the same time the whole world is being exposed. And we've been talking about this for a long time here, especially on the unraveling of our subconscious programming. And now that we're coming out of the other side of the void, how do we want to show up? That question keeps coming up for us. How do we want to show up? And in which areas of our lives do we need to show up? And right now, the world is asking to be seen. Activism is, coming into everybody's awareness right now. And those of us who have been in it and have been doing some of the deconstruction, it's like, how else? And what next? What is next? Because just like everything else on this planet, there's a spectrum of awareness. And that applies there too. Some people don't even understand there is something to be aware of. And then there are some that are deep in the trenches in their own way. And there's just this huge web that we're trying to unravel to get people back into their hearts. We've been doing this work for decades. We're seeing more and more people show up online talking about it. And I've been in circles that should on me a lot for how I show up, and how I should be doing more, should be doing different, should be doing this. Like everybody has their opinion on what it looks like. And so I've written down a couple of points, which we know on the Inner Den, we usually flow. But today I wanted to bring in a little bit of structure around that because, I put a post on socials a couple of days ago talking about we we're born alone, we die alone. There's that philosophy. And then after you comes your biological family, then your unit, then your community, then the world. And most people are doing it backwards when it comes to self care. Right. And so if we don't have the capacity, and it comes back to the question, how do we show up for the world if we're still, and in my case, in a mental health space and don't have capacity? So, I'm sure there's a ton of us that are having these kind of conversations on, how many spoons do you have left today to give, right? And so you can't pour from an empty cup. And how can we still be responsible? So that's kind of where I'd like to start is around capacity and not being able to pour from that empty cup. But if something's trying to put you down, what is enough? That's kind of what I'm licking and chewing on. What does engagement look like when you're at max capacity? I'm not talking about when you're full, because when we're full, we can move mountains, right? And a lot of us, especially in this space, who choose to sit in this vibration. When we're full, we're on the front line. So when you are compromised yourself, what does capacity look like for you? And it's deep, right? You can feel that, right? It's deep.
So when you're at capacity and a little bit of energy comes in, where do you choose to spend it? Do you give it to yourself? A lot of us don't always. Like we look outside and who needs it? We forget that we need it.
At what level of engagement can I sustain without collapsing or disappearing? Because it's a fine balance, right? Especially as women, overgive, please, all the things that we unravel on a weekly basis here in the den. These are the topics that we talk about all the time. Teaching is a form of resistance because we're educating. Right? That's how I am trying to unpack this is when we have strengths, can we lean into those strengths to support on a different level? And I think part of what we're doing here is that. Sharing wisdom and educating people brings power to communities, power to each other. Right?
Yes, and
Yes, go for it.
You're assuming that everyone's on the same community page as you.
Exactly.
And, you know, for me, I guess I feel like the call that I'm getting from an engagement perspective is how do we actually cultivate more acceptance for another's opinion, right? Like if you can't, so again, and this is again my opinion, right? If you cannot look at some of the situations that are going on right now, separate yourself from Facebook and the memes and the other flood of information that's coming in and see both perspectives, then if you can't do that, then I would say that you're probably in an echo chamber and have lost the capacity for compassion of the other. I get it. I get that you don't like what the other is doing. Guess what? They probably don't like what you're doing. And then there's this, everybody's got their communities where they can find this empowerment that you speak of, right? But then we go out into the community and then it's kind of like Jesus trying to spread the word, right? Or his disciples trying to spread the word. It's not everybody's cup of tea. And so how do you accept people where they're at? And like you're saying, not let it, how do you not get vested enough to try and pull that person over to your side, right? And so yeah, that for me right now, that looks like just acceptance and trying to find compassion and what it feels like to be in the other person's shoes and look at it from the other perspective. I also know that that's something I have more capacity for than others. So it might be easy for me, may not be so easy for someone else, or what I view as easy. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's my kind of 2 cents right there. But yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that, Anne-Marie?
Shit, yeah. So I'm studying A Course in Miracles. And it's kind of trite in a way, this is all an illusion, time's an illusion, blah, blah, blah. What is reinforced every day is First of all, none of it's happening. We can't believe the media in any way, shape, or form. But these are your brothers. These are fragments. What's the word? We all share source. So we need to love one another. What they're doing is irrelevant. Whose side they're on is irrelevant. We need to find, and I think Michonne hit on that a lot, compassion and love. What they're doing is irrelevant. Does that make sense? It's just really quite irrelevant.
Well, I hear that from the Course of Miracles level, but how do you say that to somebody who just had a family member shot? Because that is relevant. And I think that's the piece that people are struggling with.
Now, you're not going to like this either, because I've gone down probably, I don't know, 1,000 rabbit holes.
Yeah.
And not because I had time, but I was curious. And the fella that was shot apparently is an actor, and he's died a number of times. So I call bullshit. I don't know about this young lady. I don't know about her at all. But again, I don't believe anything on the media. There's an agenda with the systems. And I don't think that's what you're looking for in this conversation. I don't buy it. And I am in a loving state for all of them. If they've died, I'm sorry. If they've blown their hand off because they picked up something that for whatever reason they picked it up and their hand burnt off, and whatever's going on, I send them love. In a sense, they know not what they do. So
Well, there is teachings out there around the art of love and the art of war, right? And so I think in the thread of this conversation, it comes down to what for you is discomfort and what for you is dysregulation. If you can sit in a space that just doesn't exist, then that's not dysregulating you. But for a family member who's dealing with it, it's full dysregulation.
mm-hmm.
Because it may not be true to you, but the parent who's burying their child, however social media is doing it, that's relevant. Right. So I go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, I was just going to add, like, the relevancy is there because there are people who definitely aren't doing this work, so can't even see out, what we're talking about, seeing from the outside or seeing the manipulation. But like, I have a 14-year-old niece because of social media and because of some things that are happening, is definitely afraid that her friends are going to be ripped out of her school, and that anxiety lives with her on a daily basis. It doesn't, I can say, Anne-Marie, what you've said a dozen times to her, but she's 14 and everything is so real.
Yep. Yep.
So that's kind of what I think, Angel, you're talking about, like, part of what we're up against right now, is to it's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, and again, it comes down to how do we show up. So, Anne-Marie, that's your belief. How do you show up for those who are suffering? Yes, we all send love, that because as humans, that's just part of our nature. What else can we do? And I think that's kind of what I was trying to go deeper into. What else is there besides meditation and sending love? We're watching the monks walk for peace right now. They're sending love. They're not saying barely any words at all. They're just expanding their auras and walking with intent for peace. And in its own way, it has developed this huge, well, I don't know if you guys are watching it, but it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And more people are showing up every time that these monks walk into town, but it's still peaceful. And it's beautiful to watch. So this space, and I do believe there is a balance, because I think there's also room for all perspectives. It's when the judgments come in, that's when war starts. And that's what we're watching. Right. And so if we're trying to balance, how do we do that balance so that we don't go into dysregulation? We also don't want to do nothing. So, and we also know that concept of all or nothing, like that's addiction. That's polar opposites, and love war, right? Like do something, do nothing. Like it's this all or nothing. Why can't we come in here and go, okay, where can I do good, show up with my skills? It's not nothing, but it's also not passive. What is active love? Right? And within our own bodies, because everybody's carrying trauma in their own ways, in their own storylines through our perceptions. And we don't want to minimize anybody's trauma. So I also think that there's a space where, especially as thought leaders, and we come and we're sharing like the innards of our private lives, like I think that in alone is warrior state. Like we are showing up for the collective and modeling what it looks like to walk through these spaces. And it's fucking uncomfortable. I don't like talking about it either. Part of me showing up is the next level of even saying, hey, we think about this all the time. Just because we're not screaming from the rooftops on Instagram doesn't mean that I don't fucking care about what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm deeply diving into my internal worlds to figure out how I can show up best. Right? And I know how overwhelming it is as we're walking through this space. And so I've really learned that we need to pick a lane. We can't be everything to everybody. And isn't that the women's journey in the beginning, where we're taught to be everything for everybody? And even in this lane, we can't be everything for everybody. We can't. It's not humanly possible. And if it's expected of us, then there's a conversation that needs to happen around boundaries.
Right, exactly.
Right? 'Cause we get to decide how we show up. We get to decide how we're going to, where we're going to serve, because that's what we're doing. We're serving. So we can't care about everything all at the same time. That's not solidarity. That's burnout. That's how you burn yourself out. That's how humans burn out. That's honestly part of why we are in the situation that we are at, because the ones who are fighting the good fight, the burnout's coming. And then what happens? The animalistic nature of humans come out. And then guess what happens? That's when we see war. That's when we see the control. That's when the power over comes. That's when the narcissists say, I don't fucking care what you think. I'll just kill you. And then this whole piece of the planet will be gone. And then I can take whatever. Like we're watching it happen. Right? And so when you're looking at that kind of stuff, how can you choose everything when you only have one spoon left? And like Christina said, for those humans with mental health issues or are going through something, are you going to self-sacrifice and take yourself into suicidal ideation, or are you going to feed yourself? Because that's the reality. And that's the things that humans don't want to talk about. They're sure quick to judge you for not standing on the front line, but they're certainly not checking on you to make sure that you don't actually have the knife up to your own throat. But they're quick to judge you for not doing anything. And so compassion. Right back to Anne Marie, that compassion and that love and sending love to everybody is important right now because everybody could always use a little bit more love. Right? But as soon as humans get pushed out of their comfort zone, that's when the animals come out. And we've been pretty, the way the evolution is going, this has been the most comfortable society, right? Especially the privileged. And if they don't want to be uncomfortable, they're just choosing not to be uncomfortable. And that's what's creating this. As soon as humans lose their compassion, there's going to be war. So how do we resist that? And I heard a quote the other day that was, joy is a form of resistance. And I felt that in my bones. I'm like, yeah, like we've been creating this community and we've been creating these podcasts and we've been creating this space to talk about how to serve and how to show up for humanity and how to help people empower themselves. But I never put it together that it was a form of resistance. And that's exactly what it is. Because what are we saying? You don't have to live like this. Here's some ways to stop living like this, right? Isn't that a form of resistance? Education is power. And then how are you going to use it? Because education in the wrong hands is power over. And that is a delicate dance that we play on this planet. Because, if we're going to go to this spiritual university and play in Teotihuacan, that place will tell you that that's where you go to become gods. And then if you have all this energy in your body and you're not integrated and it's all here instead of here, where are you going to lead from?
Mhm.
We've watched it in the religious circles for how many millennia? you know? So that ego, oh my goodness, that ego is a thing. So how can we use the skills that we have right now and not just our feelings? I think a lot of people confuse the rants as action, and yes, emotionally manipulating people, like you said, Anne Marie, some of it's true and some of it's not true. But using that emotional manipulation, we know that's a tactic. So how can we not get hooked? How can we not get hooked by their bullshit? Wouldn't it be a fascinating experiment if social media just went away and didn't exist?
I'd like it.
Well, you don't even understand how many people aren't engaged. Like my brother has never, ever, ever had a social media account, ever.
My sister too.
So there's a good portion of people out there that have chosen not to engage or engaged for some period of time and then removed themselves. I know quite a few people like that too.
Right.
You're either finding information on social media, whatever context that is, or you're finding it on the news. So you're finding it one way or the other.
Yeah,
I guess I put them together. I think I kind of conglomerate anything that is digital that can manipulate
Okay.
your mind and call it social media.
Okay. I'm on board now. Okay.
Okay, got yeah, me too.
Yeah. But there's I was going to say our relatives never had it. We never had. Gen X didn't even have it. It wasn't that long ago.
But we had news. We still had news.
Still had there was newspapers, and there was still ways of
We had TV.
communication.
We're not that old.
Yeah.
Well,
You
computer
had to get up and change the channel with your fingers.
Yes.
But there was
We could
more.
do it.
Yeah, but I think there was more congruity between different news channels. You might get a more this flavor, more that flavor, but I feel like at least the story from each different news network,
Yeah.
you could get the story, and everybody was kind of getting the same story. Versus now,
True.
everyone's a street reporter, a private detective, scientific,
Yeah.
CI guy, people like. So I definitely think the when you talk about like if social media or the internet went away today and we went back to news by word of mouth,
Isn't that the same though?
yes, but think about the time. I mean, like they'll tell a story here about why Juneteenth is because it took so long for the riders or the message to get here that it that
already gone. It was
it
already
had been
over.
abolished. Yeah, like and so there was this delay in actual information as you kind of spread out from the urban center of wherever this information was coming from. So more of that would be, and I think what that does is it puts you back into what you were getting at the beginning, where instead of coming from the world in, you're coming from me out, because now without that information coming at you from the world, you're forced to kind of come back to center and be like, okay, well, what do I need? What does my homestead need today? Do I have enough wood to keep me warm through the winter? Do I have these other, and of course I'm going way back, right? Now the electric's out too.
I grew up without that for a while.
Well, and you concern yourself with community.
Yeah.
Your homestead, yourself, and your community, whatever that is.
And you just said that was a long, long, long time ago, but I'm actually watching somebody in my world, in the Nashville space, that was out of power for a couple of days this week.
Yeah.
And she was showing videos of her with her frying pan cooking in her fireplace her eggs and heating up her coffee in the fireplace this morning. And so in that moment, if we use that as the example, in that moment there was survival needs. How do I feed myself? How do I stay warm? Where's my shelter?
Mm-hmm.
It is about keeping your soul basket alive.
Yeah. So even prior to this, my students' parents live in Berlin. And I don't know exactly what happened. They were calling it a terrorist attack. And they were without power for a week or 8 days. Fortunately for them, they have a fireplace. So they went back to, like Michonne, went back to community. How can we make sure everyone's fed and warm? So they had candles. They didn't know it was coming. We knew there would be storms in certain areas in the Western country, or, wherever, Western hemisphere. We knew storms were coming, so people could prep. They didn't prep. They just happened to have a fireplace. So would we even, in that case, would they even know there's a war happening? Would they even know there's anything wrong? Would they even know? I'm not saying the answer is to go back to that kind of lifestyle. I'd love it myself, chopping wood and, whatever. I'd love that. Um, and I know it's quite naive for me to say that nothing is happening out there, because as soon as Michonne talked about her niece, my heart sunk. Like, how can I help someone I know who knows someone who's suffering? And I don't know how to do that. All I can do is be in a loving state and send her love. And I can't change her school system. I can hopefully impact her in a way that she doesn't even know I exist. Um, she needs that kind of support to know that stay home. I don't have the answer. I honestly don't have the answer. Um, I don't have an answer.
But this is where the unpacking starts.
Right.
What's step one, even in AA?
Yeah. Admit
Right?
admit there's an issue.
There's an issue, right? And so I think it's really important, because everybody's sense of safety is so at risk right now. They're feeling it. Everybody's feeling it now. And so, the fangs are coming out, the claws are coming out, and why aren't you? But the humans that are well educated in this lane already also have to have some compassion and patience for people who are still unraveling at the first level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
It's like the tree that we've talked about lots, that you're at university level in a lot of the branches, and this branch, unfortunately, a lot of humans are still in elementary school with, right? But having these uncomfortable conversations, and having a space to unpack that isn't bullying you, because that's been my experience, in certain spaces and with certain humans that have accused me of not showing up in certain ways, have accused me of cultural appropriation with what we do. And I'm like, I unpacked that and traced my lineage and found my gold, and I have made it all public. You can't come in and accuse me of that. I know in my heart, in my bones, in my cells, in my DNA, who I am and where my magic came from. Period.
Period.
Period. Right? And so there's lots of education and there's lots of harm, just like in every other community. Right? This space is loaded. It has high intensity, and I just keep asking myself, how can I show up? It's been a reoccurrent theme for the last couple of weeks of our calls. How can we show up? And this is probably one of the more uncomfortable how can we show up conversations that we've had. But I think in this space, it's important, because a lot of people need to hear it talked about in a safe space. Because I know for me, for a long time, I didn't want to show up and share because of the annihilation I went through in the beginning when I started to.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do that if I'm going to get taken out every time?
Mm-hmm.
Because now the people who are saying you should are not creating a safe space. So now you're getting it from both sides.
I think Michonne kind of hit on that in a very big way. I don't think I have the capacity to change the world in a dramatic physical way. I think it's going back to community. How can I help my community? Now I call my community like around where I live. And we talk a lot about all these topics, and I share my crazy ideas. Like the world is crumbling. We're watching all of it crumble, and it needs to crumble because it's corrupt. It still doesn't make me feel good that Michonne's niece is struggling. I really feel that burden, and I don't know how to help that, but I can help my neighbors.
Thing in a lane, and that's
Staying in my lane.
that's exactly what I'm saying. We're expected to show up in every vibration and every cause thing. Like, do you know how many things there are out there that there's activism for? Like, you can't. You can't.
Yes, because I've seen all of a sudden these new groups coming out that are getting, because this is happening, this other group is getting affected, and now these people are like, no, you can't do that.
And now the activating groups are fighting with each other. It's like,
yes, that's what I mean.
that's not helping either.
But that,
Yeah.
and I think two things, like, the same people that I mean, again, the spiritual community, right? The same people that, can't we find a way to get along, accept people where they are at, like all the, cliche things are also the same people that are either so rigid, if you don't come over here and think the way they do, then they don't have any time for you.
Exactly.
And you're also accosted verbally, physically, whatever.
Yeah, and again, I haven't had that happen in person, but in this particular instance, but I was in a situation. I guess it was COVID time. I know that, but it was one of the instances that happened. Somebody, the police went and served a warrant. Somebody got shot. Blah 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 blah. Of course, the media went out and told all their stories, and again, there were two sides. Well, I was in a mentorship program, and I had conflict with somebody. I disagreed with them about that, and this is also when we started referring, certain groups started referring to you by your skin color group. You're a white woman. I'm a brown skin person. And like, we just dehumanized everybody at that, in my opinion.
Yes.
Right. And so there was conflict. And then, we tried to have this, mentored conversation about it. And I am still friends with this person. I can't say that I necessarily ever felt like I was heard, but we did move past it. I still don't know that we would necessarily be able to have constructive, safe space conversations about politics right now, because I just don't, we're not, like, I just know that we're not on the same page, right? And so, again, there used to be this reaching across the aisle, like wanting to understand. And so when you're talking about, like, how can I help my niece, for instance, I can't change the media, right? I can't do all those things. What can I do? Well, what techniques do I know that a 16-year, and I did say she was 14, so if she ever hears this, I know you're 16. So, what techniques can I teach a 16-year-old about dealing with anxiety, calming your nervous system when you are being impacted by outside information?
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's the other thing I would just add is, like, we can't, like, even if we have the capacity to see from every side, we all still have an opinion, because we are all still human. And I don't want to say that there's a quote unquote side, because I don't really want to be in that space of sides. And it has to be your way or my way or this. But there's so much of that, right? And so if we don't have the capacity, like some of the apprenticeship stuff that we had to do, and having to hold the capacity to do some shit that we were exposed to, right? And that's, again, in the moment, stupid effing what the F, afterwards it's like, oh, I see. You just ripped a whole onion layer off about how I am so rigid in this, that, or the other thing, that I get now this outside stripped look. And again, that's way deeper into this on showing up. But I think, it's how can we offer something to the situation that, again, we don't ever know what impact we have on a person or situation.
Yeah. And I think in the beginning, like Anne Marie had said, I don't know. Well, I think questions like, what am I already good at? What drains me the least? Because we still have to honor our own nervous systems. And what can I do repeatedly? You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's like with these spaces that we do, that we're talking every week. If somebody went back to the very beginning of the internet and watched all the way through from the beginning, they'd see the evolution. They'd see the shifts, that we commit to homework sometimes and then, show up differently the next time. Like taking that authentic action and really diving into what else is here for me to clear out that's causing friction, not only within me, within my relationships, right? And we have to also remember that we can't consistently expose ourselves to trauma. Life is going to come at us. So if we're always looking for it, there's no way we're going to be able to hold ourselves if we're at max, if something else comes in. That's the burnout space, right? And so I found a list of ways people could contribute without constantly exposing them to trauma all the time, because not everybody's meant to be on the front line. Not everybody's meant to be ranting and raving and speaking passionately on the front line. That's not everybody's role. But that doesn't mean that there's not a whole bunch of other roles. And the list I found had like admin work, graphic design, writing resource docs, moderating spaces, fundraising, logistics, research, teaching, community care, child care during protests, mutual aid distribution. And the tagline was, you don't have to be the loudest. You need to be reliable in whatever role you choose. And I know for me, consistency matters. Reliability and trust matter. I'm going to follow somebody who shows they can hold a safe container, who shows up consistently when they say they're going to do, that can hold integrity, that can hold trust. I'm going to follow somebody that does that consistently well before I'm going to follow somebody that randomly, when they get a hit, to rave on social media, and then we never see anything about social justice again.
By the same token, do not give your power away.
Exactly.
Do not give your power away. Take everything you learn, see, hear with a grain of salt. And
exactly.
I follow who I follow because it's interesting. The minute it doesn't resonate with me, and I'm always asking if it resonates or not.
Yes.
And
discernment piece.
I stop watching.
Yeah. Yeah. And martyrdom helps no one.
No.
Not like, that's self-abuse yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And so stepping into this space, it can't be a dive or you'll crash. And I've watched it. Michonne has seen it in some of our shared circles. The crash is real. Yeah. And psychosis comes. It comes for you.
Yeah.
If you're not held in that space as you're doing the unraveling. Right. So, Christina, do you have anything to add?
Not a whole lot right now. I think what's real and what isn't out there isn't really the big issue, because what's real and what isn't is all out there on social media, and that's what's impacting people. Unless you live next door to something, it doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's the impact of the messages that's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's there's a space too that assumptions are made, clearly I'm a white woman, clearly. So there's assumptions made about my life and what my family looks like, you know. Um, but I have multicultural mixes in my family, right? Most of my nieces, and not just looking at race, like the my list: Black, brown, indigenous, disabled, queer, and poor people. I can identify with 3 of those myself, and nieces and Christina's kids that I helped raise. Like we have experienced all of this through their eyes and witnessed and helped and supported. But there's this space where as soon as they see white, they think they don't understand. So it comes on both sides. All perceptions, everybody's judging everybody. And so I think that's what I would like the biggest message to be. Joy is a form of resistance. And if we're going to, and if we want to build community, we have to have that space for compassion and patience and understanding that lots of people have experiences that you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be a judgy McJudgerson.
Yeah, and some minorities are invisible.
Exactly.
Aren't what?
Some
Invisible.
minorities are invisible. Like you don't know by looking at somebody if they're, part of LGBTQ or what, generally speaking, you're not going to know.
Generally, I don't want to. I don't care.
Well, exactly. And you shouldn't want to know.
Exactly.
Because unless you
Exactly.
Sorry, I don't care.
And actually, no, I was going to be judgy.
Live and let live, and is let's just operate from our heart.
Yeah.
And whatever soul basket you have, yay.
Yay.
You get to decorate it, you get to do whatever you want with it, and you get to show up however you want with it. And lots of us are experimenting with that. And I'm watching the younger generation in my family do it as well. And I am the biggest freaking cheerleader. So I think people make assumptions when they look at you when you look a certain way, and it's not just on one side, it's on both sides. Judgments and assumptions are being made. We're all
But you're
trying to
never going to get rid of that fully. You're just not. You're a human being. You have experiences that have shaped you. And I'm sorry, but the next information that comes to you is assessed based on previously learned information, just like most AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whoa, we just went in a whole different generation.
Yeah, I do have one quote that I heard today that I actually made my chalkboard, and I ran away and wrote it in my journal right away. So I wanted to share that with you all too. But it was, how can I align my free will with God's plan? And you can replace God with the universe or whatever works for you, but we have free will, and then there's a plan, right? Or we like to believe, if that's what you believe. So
Can you say that again, please?
how can I align my free will with God's plan?
Right. I like that. Yeah. Thank you.
Wouldn't that make life so much easier?
Right?
Yeah.
Because I know I've asked myself before, or asked the universe to, hey, if I'm not on the right path, or if this isn't what you had planned or in mind for me, please redirect me, and please make it specifically clear to 30 degrees this way or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it comes down to also having that safe space to unpack. We've talked about a couple times, but that That is so important. I don't think that not having community is good for you. Like, I think community is not optional. Like, it's humans need each other, right? And yes, there is. I'm not talking about codependency, right? Like, people are so scared of that word, they went all the way to the other side. But hyper independence is a trauma response. Again, polar opposites. We're allowed to dance.
Yeah,
It
and
doesn't
healthy
have to. Yes,
attachment, right? I mean, yeah,
yes.
there's codependence, but before that, there's healthy attachment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I know, through the healing journey, everybody's really lobs onto that, "Oh, codependence, codependence, codependent no more." But is it codependent or is it interdependence within the community?
And there's healthy and unhealthy codependence. I mean,
Yeah, and so when you're finding your community, when you're finding a container to land in to do this work, some of the questions being, who do I do this with? Who helps me regulate? Who dysregulates me? And who will notice if I disappear?
Yeah.
Because also being erased is a trauma. And that's one I'm walking through this year, and that's why it's kind of a hot topic for me. When being erased as a human is a whole different experience. And when you're finding your people, when you're finding spaces to work in, who do I do this work with? Who helps me regulate? We had a discussion, the group of us last week, as when I brought a situation into the group, and I said, "This is how it went. Give me some reflection back on did I show up wrong?" And everybody was like, "Don't ever talk to that person again. That's bullying." And so sometimes when you are starting to do the deep unravels, you need reflection. You need that support to walk through that space so that you do show up differently. Because, like Michonne said, you have your experiences as humans. When you're trying to choose differently, that's when the brain will fight with you, because the brain likes consistency and the brain likes routine. And if this is your routine and this is how you normally react, when you're trying to shift that, that's when community is a life support. Because some of those changes, like when we talk about these uncomfortable things that humans need to process in their brains, like Michonne said, it gets scary when that layer gets ripped off.
I have a question for you, and I don't expect anyone to necessarily have the answer, whether we bring it back up again or not. We'll see. But when we talk about safe spaces, let's just say we were trying to create a safe space container around the topic that we've been discussing tonight, but we want to do it in real life, say, okay? So some of the questions that I'm kind of thinking here, do you open that up to the public? If you do open it up to the public, say, and you get people that you don't know there, okay, and this gets into a heated discussion between two sides, because this is, it is an emotional topic, and I don't expect that everyone that might want to talk about it is going to be able to maintain, emotional IQ. So let's say I do that, and we get into this, and then now we're in a conflict resolution position kind of thing, and so you see where my mind starts to go, like in the safe space kind of thing. Yes, I would love to create that safe space to have the discussions, to be able to have and grow the compassion for the other voice. But there are a lot of variables that need a little bit of management in my engineering mind to make sure that I have the capacity to hold the container and to keep it safe.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people don't go into community to do this, because it 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 can feel
Volatile.
life threatening.
It's volatile.
Oh, volatile, right? And so, like even having as candid as a conversation as the four of us just had, there are lots of differing opinions, and it's okay to voice an opinion here as long as there's respect and humility, right? And I think that we've modeled that beautifully, and most of the time these kind of conversations are not recorded.
It's true.
True.
Right? And so there is a space inside of me. Like I said, there's discomfort here for me as well. But as way showers, how can you model this is us modeling the conversation, stumbling through it. It's not perfect. The work is not perfect. I am certainly not perfect. But at least we're trying. There's a space where, of course, we don't want to cause harm. But if the conversation's not opened up, then, but like Michonne said, how do you do it with as much compassion and heart as you can and create that safe space? If there is, so I'm just going back into the situation that you shared. If it was like, say, if it was us four and we were in a public space doing something and had public come in, I'm not necessarily sure I would have had that conversation, because you don't know those people.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a safe space. I think
Exactly.
having the conversation with the four of us and allowing each other to go really deep, that's a safe space, because we've done the work. We have been working together for months, once a week, months. And some of us 2 or 3 times a week for months. That's how you create a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I can show up and say, oh God, I really fucked up. And I'm not going to be bullied, subjugated. I told you so. You're this. That's not going to happen here, because we've developed that trust.
Well, and that's kind of one of the things I was getting at. Like, do we need that first, or can we open? I don't know. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. What do you mean by do we need that first? You lost me on that one.
I just meant, do we need the trust first?
Oh, of course.
Right. To have the conversation. Because like what I'm talking about is more of a public forum, right?
Yes.
And most people, I guess that would be the other part that I would add, right? Is most of us are not taught, even in our own families, how to have a difficult conversation.
Right. So what would make people think that a public place is the way to do it when we can't even do it with our families?
Right. Or that we, if we can't grow that even in our other intimate relationships, whether they be business or friendship or whatever, because there's difficult conversations to be had in all your relationships, I assure you. Maybe not with your dog. Well, no, even with your dog. There are difficult conversations.
Dog's been one of my
I can
greatest
attest that she's had some pretty difficult conversations with her dog.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, like it's, how do you grow compassion in the discomfort? And if you're, or even like, how do you teach? Like, let's take it, maybe just like ease it out of like apprenticeship, but could you even teach a 1-day workshop on sitting with discomfort? How many people want to come to a sitting with discomfort workshop? Does that sound fun?
Yeah. Well, yeah. How can you pull people into that when, like, prime example, my ex-husband, his exit was literally, oh, I'm comfortable with the way I am. I don't want to change. I like the way I am.
Well, he's not invited.
That goes without saying.
But maybe your niece, Michonne, would. Like, I don't like how I feel. Would I go to something like that?
Yeah.
We could teach breathing, we could teach whatever, we could teach awareness, all kinds of things, but it's awareness that you even have
And that's a
that.
perfect and that's a perfect balance, because you're looking at, well over 200-pound white frontline man compared to somebody who's struggling with that, where he probably has never experienced that in his life,
Yeah.
right? If it's not affecting them and making them uncomfortable, they're not going to change.
Yeah.
So, and that's why most of the work being done right now is by women. And
There's
that's not a
men out
stat.
there that are
There's
stepping up.
statistics. And yes,
I
there
know
is
there
men
is.
doing the work. Absolutely. But what is the ratio?
Yeah, it's a little woman heavy, if that's a term.
Yeah, I would, and I not to. Again, this is just again perspective thing. I would ask if the ratio would be the same down in the younger generation. We're not. There's
I
a,
would
and
agree.
again, this is my opinion on toxic feminism and why there's such a large amount of population, whether they chose or did not choose to be a middle-aged woman without children or family. Those are a good portion of the people doing the work. And the other half are the people that have either, kind of, again, this is just my perspective on things. From the percentage of people with young kids that are in this work is lower, and it's going to be higher in the unmarried and or grown children. And so
Yeah.
Well, and every generation also has
Yeah.
different stats. Yeah, that was a very
and or
generalized
and that
statement.
yeah, well, and that's what I would say. Like, there's probably a different teacher for them
Right.
that's
Well-
younger and closer and hipper, and like.
But the younger generation is also choosing to have kids later, if at all. Birth rates are declining.
Yeah, and it's a problem. But again, I blame
It
part of
just
that
shifts
on toxic
the way people
feminism.
think.
Yeah. So, how can we bring more joy?
Stay in our lane.
And understand we can't solve all the world problems in an hour.
No.
Although I think we covered a lot. But yeah, I think integrity, respect, love, compassion, all of those human qualities, we need to lean into those more, lean into community, lean into the people that are safe, stay away from the bullies. Stay away from the bullies.
And do more of what you love, because if joy is resistance, doing more of what you love is going to bring in more energy and more joy, period. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And nature. Let's get out in nature.
Ha.
Nature's the ultimate healer.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if
And-
you saw a post I did. I laid down the other day on a
I did.
path. I just laid
Right
down.
below the
It's minus 10 Celsius. And I just went, it was like a magnet. It was like, down I go. And I was there for a long time, and it totally balanced me out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think that's why I wanted to bring in this conversation, because all of our talks in the den have been around how we move forward from these things, because we've all had our traumas. There's a reason why we went into this work, right? We were all searching for solutions, and now that we have the solutions that worked for us, now clearly there's lots of different ways to heal on this planet. But we found out ways for us. And that's our jobs, is to share what we learned. Take what resonates, leave the rest, lead with joy, lead with love, protect your family and yourself. And we're animals. I don't want to fight. But if you bring the fight to me, I'm not backing down.
It's because we're warriors too, right?
Mhm.
And that's the piece to
It's balance.
remember. Balance. You can shine your love, you can shine your light, you can bring compassion into the world, and also not let anybody fuck with you.
Exactly.
And that's the medicine we teach here, is how to stand up for yourself and protect your house and protect your home and protect your people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we do it because of what's happening in the world, and we're going to have to start talking about it more, that that's the medicine you can get here in the den.
Yeah. Don't give your power away. Listen to your intuition, which is your gut.
Exactly.
It's all in. It's all in here.
So
And breathe.
happy
Breathe.
unraveling, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angel.
Bye,
Nice to see
guys.
you all.
Yes, you too.